President of Ghana announced on Thursday that the US will not be offered a military base in the West African country.
Ghana has not offered a military base and will not offer a military base to the United States of America.
Well, the statement comes after mass protests in Ghana's capital, Accra, against the military deal with the US. The demonstrators were worried such an agreement would give Washington too much influence over the country's sovereignty. RT's Igor Zdanov looks at how the US and other nations have been trying to gain a stronger foothold in the continent.
Uncle Sam is wooing Africa, boasting about their strong historical bond, a family tree. Washington's key argument is a 7,000-strong corps of soldiers scattered all across the continent. The impression this map makes is unambiguous. Africa is no one's playpen but America's. This impression is wrong, though. In fact, many African nations prefer relations not secured by the US dollar. And Ghana is the latest country on the US troublemaker list. And for Washington, it couldn't have come at a worse time. The Pentagon understands hearts and minds are there for the taking.
External actors may diminish US influence by undermining our development and diplomatic efforts in Africa. Nonetheless, as the strategic environment becomes more crowded and competitive, our engagement with external actors like China and Russia will continue, with an open and clear discussion of intersecting interests and differences.
Beijing's clearly stepping on Americans' toes in Africa. Chinese firms have invested billions of dollars into the continent's infrastructure. Their contribution has been the catalyst for a continental free trade area, somewhat equivalent to the European Union, but much bigger. Soft powers got Washington in a twist, with sale pitches attempting to undermine China's expansion in Africa.
Partner with African countries by incentivizing good governance to meet long-term security and development goals. This stands in stark contrast to China's approach, which encourages dependency, using opaque contracts, predatory loan practices, and corrupt deals.
Rex Tillerson, then Washington's chief emissary, went on a charm offensive to Africa back in March. His trip coincided with Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's visit, a clear sign Moscow is steadfast to do business with Africa too. Their diplomatic marathon across the continent set off from the same hotel in Ethiopia. But there's no indication whether Rex Tillerson managed to tip the balance of power during the visit. After all, why would anyone listen to a man who was shown the door the day he returned to American shores?
If I were a betting man, I would bet that the United States would lose the competition, not only with China, but with Russia and Turkey, perhaps even with France. I say that because, in part, the United States has a very arrogant attitude that it takes towards people from Africa. And that's to set aside, which is that the United States does not have the economic or financial wherewithal to compete with China in any case. And then, finally, there is gross alienation on the African continent with regard to U.S. interference in the internal affairs of African continents. All in all, I would say that United States prospects in Africa going forward are rather poor.